I've always been told I was beautiful. People would say it casually, as if it was just another part of who I was. But it never felt like a compliment that I had to earn. I didn't work at it, I was just me. Slim, graceful, and confident. I had my own life, filled with friends, work, and the occasional date here and there. Before I met Luke, I was content with my life, not looking for anything more. But everything changed the day I met him. Luke was different from anyone I had ever met. From the moment our eyes met, there was this undeniable spark between us. He had this way about him, calm but intense, thoughtful yet confident. I felt like I could talk to him about anything, and he'd listen with genuine interest. When he smiled at me, I could see the admiration in his eyes. It wasn't just about my looks, though that certainly made me feel special. It was something deeper. One evening, after our third date, Luke took me to this quiet restaurant that was filled with soft lighting and the sound of clinking glasses. We were seated by the window, overlooking the city lights, and as he reached across the table to take my hand, he looked at me as if I was the only person in the room. "You're incredible," he said softly. "I'm so lucky to be with you." I could tell he meant it. He looked at me with so much love, and I felt a warmth in my chest. For the first time, I didn't just feel like I was pretty. I felt like I was special in a way I couldn't explain. From that moment on, things progressed quickly. He took me out to dinners, to shows, and introduced me to his friends. Luke would always tell everyone how lucky he was to be with someone as beautiful as me. It felt like every day was a celebration of us. He loved flaunting me, showing me off to his colleagues. There was something so sweet and protective in the way he would pull me close, as if to say, "This is my girl." I didn't mind. It made me feel loved, like I was the most important person in his life. And the pictures, oh the pictures. We'd go on trips, to the park, or even just to a cafe, and Luke would always want to capture our moments together. He'd point his phone at us and snap a picture, always smiling, as if we were living in some sort of perfect fairy tale. "You're so beautiful, Hannah," he'd whisper as he clicked the camera. "I want to remember this moment forever." It wasn't just the compliments, it was the way he treated me. I felt cherished, I felt adored. And every time he held my hand or kissed my forehead, I knew, without a doubt, that this was the love I had always dreamed of. I was falling deeper in love with him, and I was sure he was doing the same. Luke had become my everything, and for the first time, I felt like I had everything I wanted. After we got married, life felt like a beautiful dream. Luke didn't just love me in private, he loved me out loud, for the whole world to see. He would take me along to every event he could. Office parties, company dinners, team outings. Wherever there was a gathering, Luke wanted me there beside him. I was never just an afterthought. I was the first person he introduced when he walked into a room. I remember the way his eyes would light up whenever he said, "This is my wife, Hannah," his voice full of pride. His colleagues would smile warmly, and some would even whisper to him, thinking I couldn't hear, "You're a lucky man." Luke would just grin and tighten his hold on my waist. And when we weren't at formal events, Luke still found ways to show me off. Coffee shop dates turned into little photo shoots. Dinner nights became opportunities for him to post our pictures online with captions like, "My queen." I wasn't just his wife, I was his pride, his joy, his favorite person to talk about and show the world. In those days I felt beautiful. Not just because of how I looked, but because of how he made me feel, seen, loved, treasured. I thought it would always be this way. I truly believed nothing could ever change the way he looked at me. Before I go on with my story, can I ask you something? Where in the world are you listening from? Knowing that someone somewhere understands, even just a little, gives me the strength to keep going. Please, Tell me in the comments. It would mean more to me than you know. Not long after we settled into married life, something wonderful happened. I found out I was pregnant. I remember standing in the bathroom that morning, holding the little test in my shaking hands. 2 pink lines stared back at me, clear as day. For a few seconds, I just stood there, frozen, my heart pounding in my chest, and then the tears came, tears of pure joy. When I told Luke, he scooped me into his arms and spun me around the living room. He laughed, kissed my forehead over and over, and called out, "I'm going to be a dad," like he had just won the biggest prize in the world. We were so happy, so full of dreams. Luke became even more loving after we found out. He talked to my growing belly every night, whispering to our baby like they were already best friends. He would rest his hand gently on my stomach, feeling for the tiniest flutters, and every kick, every little movement made him smile like a child seeing fireworks for the first time. He was there for everything: doctor's appointments, baby shopping, nursery painting. Sometimes he would play silly little bets with me about whether we were having a boy or a girl. He always guessed boy, but deep down, I had a feeling it was a girl. Pregnancy wasn't always easy. I had morning sickness, swollen ankles, and days when I felt tired just getting out of bed. But through it all, Luke stayed by my side, making me feel beautiful even when I didn't feel like myself. "You're glowing," he would say, brushing my hair away from my sweaty forehead. "You're carrying our miracle." Hearing those words made every hard moment feel worth it. When the time finally came, and we welcomed our beautiful daughter into the world, we named her Mabel. Holding her tiny body against my chest, I thought, this is what true happiness feels like. Life felt full. Our little family was complete. At least, that's what I believed then. Life with Mabel was beautiful and exhausting. Those first few weeks after her birth were a blur of sleepless nights, endless feedings, and learning how to be a mother. I loved her more than I ever thought was possible. But I also started to notice something else. Something I wasn't ready for. My body wasn't bouncing back the way I thought it would. The mirror became something I tried to avoid. My once slim figure was softer now. My clothes didn't fit the same. Stretch marks, dark circles under my eyes, a heavier body. I barely recognized the woman looking back at me. At first, I didn't think much of it. I had just brought a whole new life into the world. I told myself it was normal, that my body needed time. And Luke, he still smiled at me, still kissed me when he left for work, but little things began to change. He no longer reached for me like he used to. The way he looked at me became different, almost like he was seeing someone he didn't quite know. I tried to brush the feelings aside. I told myself I was imagining things, that he was just tired from all the new responsibilities. But deep down, a small ache began to grow inside me, a fear I didn't have the courage to name yet. I focused all my energy on Mabel. Maybe if I loved her enough, worked hard enough, everything else would fall back into place. But life was shifting around me, quietly, like sand slipping through my fingers, and I didn't know how to stop it. It started with small comments, little jokes here and there that he laughed off but left deep cuts in my heart. One evening, as I struggled to zip up a dress that used to fit me perfectly, Luke walked into the room. He chuckled and said, "Maybe it's time you stopped eating like you're still pregnant." I laughed weakly, pretending it didn't sting, pretending it didn't matter. But inside, something broke a little. At first, I thought maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe it was just a bad joke. But the comments didn't stop. When I reached for a second helping of dinner, he would raise his eyebrows and say, "Are you sure you need more?" When we were getting ready for a small party at his office, he looked at me and muttered, "I wish you could still fit into that red dress. You looked so stunning then." Then, Not now. I started to notice the way his eyes followed other women when we went out, the slimmer, younger ones. I started to notice how he no longer took photos of me. No more playful selfies. No more proud pictures with his queen. At home, he spent more time on his phone, smiling at things I couldn't see, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of. And when he looked at me, it wasn't with pride anymore. It was with disappointment, frustration, maybe even disgust. I tried harder. I wore makeup even when I didn't feel like it. I skipped meals. I worked out late at night when Mabel was asleep. I did everything I could to bring back the girl he once adored. But no matter how hard I tried, it never seemed enough. I wasn't enough. Not anymore. Days turned into weeks, and the space between Luke and me grew wider and colder. It didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like watching a crack in glass spread until the whole thing shattered. Luke started coming home later than usual. There was always a reason. Work meetings, traffic, last-minute plans with friends. I wanted to trust him. I needed to. But every day it got harder. At home, he barely spoke to me. He used to ask about my day, about Mabel, about how I was feeling. Now he hardly even looked my way. Sometimes I would sit close to him on the couch, hoping he would put his arm around me like before. Instead, he would shift slightly, pretending not to notice. Or he would bury his face in his phone, laughing at something I couldn't see, while I sat there feeling invisible. I knew my body had changed. I could feel it in every part of me. But what could I do? I had just given birth. I was nursing Mabel. She needed me. My body needed fuel to produce enough milk for her. I had to eat more than I used to. Sometimes, even when I wasn't hungry, I forced myself to eat, because her tiny cries reminded me that my body was her only source of strength. But Luke didn't see it that way. All he saw was the extra weight. The softer body, the woman who no longer fit into his idea of perfect. I missed him so much. I missed us. The laughter, the teasing, the endless kisses and tight hugs. Now, even though we slept in the same bed, it felt like we were in two different worlds. I thought about telling him how scared I was, telling him that I was still me, under the tired eyes and the stretched skin. But every time I opened my mouth, the words died, because deep down I already knew. His actions were speaking louder than anything he could ever say. And every day I felt myself slipping further into loneliness, into silence, into a heartbreak I didn't know how to fix. One night, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. The silence between us had grown too heavy. I had to say something, anything, to stop this pain from eating me alive. I found him in the living room, sitting on the couch with his eyes glued to the TV, as usual. Mabel was in her crib, peacefully asleep, and I felt a small moment of calm before everything bubbled up inside me. "Luke," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "can we talk?" He glanced at me quickly, then went back to the screen. "About what?" he mumbled, as if he couldn't be bothered. I took a deep breath and sat down beside him. I didn't want to yell, didn't want to sound like I was accusing him. I just needed him to listen. "I've been feeling really invisible lately," I started. He didn't respond, so I pushed forward. "I notice you've been distant. And I don't understand why. It hurts. It feels like you're pulling away, and I'm not sure what happened to us." I paused, gathering my courage. "I feel like I'm not enough for you anymore." Luke shifted uncomfortably, his eyes flicking to mine for a split second before he looked back at the TV. "Not enough?" he repeated, almost scoffing. "I'm just tired, Hannah. Things are stressful at work, you know that." I tried to stay calm, tried to explain how much it hurt, that it wasn't just the stress. "It's not just about being tired, Luke. You've been distant, cold, you barely talk to me, you don't even look at me the same way anymore. And the comments about my body, they really sting. He looked at me then, and his face hardened. What do you expect? You've changed, Hannah. You don't look the same anymore. I felt my heart drop. I knew this was coming, but hearing it out loud felt like a punch in the gut. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words got caught in my throat. Luke continued, his tone defensive. Other women have babies and they get their bodies back. You see it all the time. I'm not saying you should be like them, but it's hard to ignore, don't you think? My chest tightened as I tried to hold back the tears that were threatening to spill. Luke, you don't get it, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Every woman's body is different. Giving birth changes us in ways we can't control. I'm still me. I just need time to heal. My body is still adjusting, and that's okay. But you keep comparing me to other women. You make me feel like I'm failing. I saw him hesitate for a moment. He opened his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. You don't see what I'm going through, do you? You don't see how hard it is to carry all this weight, not just physically, but emotionally. To keep our home together, to care for Mabel, to try and feel good about myself, while you look at me like I'm less than who I used to be. Luke stayed silent for a long time. His eyes avoided mine, and for the first time in a while, I didn't feel angry. I just felt sad. I had hoped this conversation would bring us closer, help him understand, but instead it felt like I was talking to a wall. He couldn't see it. He couldn't see how much I was hurting, how I was fighting to keep myself together. You don't have to say anything, I whispered, standing up. I just needed you to hear me, and you didn't. I stood in front of the mirror again. But this time, there was something different in my reflection. I wasn't just seeing the stretch marks, the weight that still lingered from pregnancy, or the tired eyes. I was seeing me, the woman who had carried a child into this world, the woman who had loved fiercely and had been broken but not defeated. Days had passed since I had tried to talk to Luke. I had poured my heart out to him that night, my fears, my pain, the weight I was carrying. But instead of the comfort I had hoped for, I was met with defensiveness and cold comparisons. It left a deep ache in my chest, one I couldn't seem to shake. I went about my days caring for Mabel, pushing through the exhaustion, the self-doubt, the loneliness that gnawed at me even in a house full of people. I didn't nag or bring it up again, I just retreated into myself. One evening, after a particularly rough day where Mabel had been fussy and I hadn't even found the time to shower, I sat alone in the living room. The television was on, but I wasn't really watching. I was just staring, numb and drained. Luke walked in from the kitchen, a bottle of water in his hand. He paused when he saw me sitting there, slouched and silent, my eyes tired, my spirit low. I saw him hesitate, almost as if he wanted to say something but didn't know how. And then slowly, he set the bottle down and came over to me. "Hannah," he said softly, kneeling down in front of me. I blinked at him, surprised. His eyes, they looked different. They weren't defensive this time. They weren't impatient. They were sorrowful. "I've been terrible to you," he said, his voice breaking. "I've been so blind, so selfish." I said nothing. I couldn't trust my voice. "I keep seeing you with Mabel, watching you love her, sacrifice for her, and it hit me," he went on, his voice cracking. "You're not just the woman I married. You're more now. You're a mother. And I have been so stupid, so cruel, to make you feel like you weren't enough." Tears burned my eyes, but I bit them back. He took my hands in his and said softly, "I compared you to women who didn't walk your path. I judged you when I should have been cherishing you. I didn't understand, Hannah. I didn't see how much you needed me to stand beside you, not criticize you." I swallowed hard, the emotions choking me. "I am so sorry," he whispered. "I don't want to lose you. I don't want you to feel alone ever again. I want to be better, for you, for Mabel, for us." I let out a shaky breath, feeling the walls I had built around my heart start to crack. I'm still learning to love this version of me, I admitted, my voice trembling. And it's hard enough, without feeling like I have to earn love from the person I thought would always see me. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against my knees. You don't have to earn anything, Hannah. I love you. I never stopped. I was just too foolish to show it right. I reached out and touched his hair, feeling the sincerity pouring from him. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was battling alone. We stayed like that for a long moment. No more accusations, no more walls, just two broken people trying to heal together. That night, something shifted between us. It wasn't that everything magically became perfect. It was that we had chosen, truly chosen, to see each other again. To walk this messy, beautiful road side by side. Healing had begun, and it was real this time. The next morning, I woke to the faint smell of something cooking. Still groggy, I sat up, instinctively listening for Mabel's soft coos. But all was quiet. Confused, I slipped on my robe and padded toward the kitchen. There, I found Luke, apron tied clumsily around his waist, stirring something in a pan. Mabel was in her bouncer nearby, gurgling happily as he spoke to her in a soft, silly voice. The sight stopped me in my tracks. He turned around when he heard me and smiled, a little sheepish but proud. Morning, beautiful. Breakfast is almost ready. Breakfast is almost ready. I blinked at him. You cooked? He chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Well, tried to. I thought you could use a break. I made us a healthy omelette, lots of veggies, some protein. Figured we could start eating better together. You know, feel stronger, happier. Tears pricked at my eyes again, but this time they were warm, grateful tears. He wasn't just saying sorry anymore, he was living it. He plated the omelette carefully and set it in front of me. It wasn't perfect, a little uneven, a little browned on one side, but to me, it was beautiful. We sat down together, Luke occasionally bouncing Mabel with his foot while we ate. He asked me about how I was feeling, really feeling. He listened, not to argue, not to defend, but to hear me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, gently, life began to feel lighter. Luke would leave little notes for me around the house, simple ones like, "Thank you for everything you do," or "You're beautiful, don't forget that." He insisted we take evening walks together, even if it was just around the block with Mabel, just to clear my head and breathe fresh air. He learned to notice when I was tired, when I needed a break, when a small act of kindness could lift my entire day. And me, I started to heal from the inside out. I embraced my body, not the one I used to have, but the one that had brought life into the world. I stood a little taller, smiled a little more freely. Luke's love didn't fix me, it simply reminded me that I was never broken in the first place. We were rebuilding something deeper, something stronger. Not the fairy tale love we once imagined, but something better. A love that had been tested, refined, and still chose to stay. And as I sat there, watching our daughter sleep peacefully in his arms, I realized something even greater. Every change my body had gone through, every scar, every stretch, every softness, was not something to mourn, it was something to honor. Because through those changes, I had brought life into the world. Through those changes, I had become a mother. And there is no greater beauty, no deeper strength, than that. I would still work toward keeping fit and healthy, but now from a place of love and gratitude, not from shame or pressure to bounce back. This time, it would be for me, because motherhood had taught me that every change was worth it, and so was I. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope you enjoyed the story and found it inspiring. Remember, every story is an opportunity to learn and grow. If you liked what you heard, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fun English stories and lessons. Hit the bell icon so you'll be the first to know when we post new content. Your support really means a lot to us. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.